What if I told you that a 17-year-old girl was pronounced dead, her body lowered into a grave, and 3 days later, someone heard a knock from underground? This isn't a horror movie. It happened. And what she said when they dug her up is the part that still has no explanation. Meet Esther. The year is 1957 in Millfield, Ohio, the kind of small town where everyone knew everyone. Esther was quiet. She helped her grandmother with the chickens, went to church on Sundays, and had just started dating the quarterback of the high school team. Then, one Tuesday, she didn't show up for school. Her mother found her in bed, not asleep. Her skin was cold, gray, no breath. Dr. Morrison was at the house in 10 minutes. He checked for a pulse. He listened to her chest for a full 60 seconds. Then he pulled the sheet over her face. The cause of death was listed as acute vital failure, a catch-all phrase from the 1950s that basically meant doctors had no idea why she had just dropped dead. They buried her the next afternoon. The family couldn't afford embalming, so she was placed in a simple pine box, 6 feet under Ohio clay, with a white marble stone that read, "At rest." Here is where the official record gets strange. The gravedigger, an old man named Frank, swore he heard a sound around midnight. He told police it was like fingernails on the inside of a coffin lid, but he didn't report it. Why? He said, and I quote, "You don't dig up a girl 2 hours after you buried her. People would think you lost your mind." So Esther spent her first night underground, in a box made for one, with no light and almost no air except what seeped through the wormholes in the wood. And here's the question nobody can answer. Was she actually dead? Or was she trapped in something far worse? A coma so deep that only a coroner saw would have told the difference. On day 2, her mother never left the cemetery. She brought flowers every morning and sat on the wet grass for hours. Neighbors thought she was losing her mind. But her mother kept saying the same thing, "She's not gone. I feel her." Then, on the morning of the 3rd day, a groundskeeper named Luther saw something that made him drop his shovel. He was about 70 yards away, raking leaves, when he heard a muffled thumping coming from the newer section of the graveyard. At first he thought it was an animal, but as he got closer, he realized the sound was rhythmic, deliberate, and it was coming from directly under Esther's grave. He ran to the church. The pastor didn't believe him. Neither did the sheriff. But Esther's mother, she grabbed a shovel herself and started digging before anyone could argue. It took 2 hours to reach the coffin. The whole town had gathered by then, some carrying torches, others clutching Bibles. And when the last layer of dirt was brushed away, they saw it. The lid of the pine box was splintered from the inside. There were fresh scratches, deep ones, and a small fist-sized hole near the latch. The sheriff pried the lid open, and what he saw made him stumble backward. Esther was curled on her side, covered in splinters and dirt. Her lips were cracked. Her fingernails were broken to the quick, but her eyes were open, and she was crying. She was not dead. She had never been dead. They rushed her to Millfield General. She was dehydrated and hypothermic, but alive. The doctor who had declared her dead, Dr. Morrison, refused to visit. He later moved to Florida and never practiced medicine again. But the real shock came when Esther was well enough to speak. A reporter from the Columbus Dispatch sat by her bed and asked the question everyone wanted to know. "What did you see? What did you feel?" She said, "I heard everything. The doctor saying I was gone. My mother screaming. The first shovelful of dirt hitting the coffin. Every single sound for 3 days. But I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. It was like being frozen inside my own body." And then she said something that still haunts the people who heard it. She looked at the reporter and asked, "Do you want to know the worst part?" The worst part, she said, was not the darkness, not the suffocation. It was that she felt someone, or something, sitting on top of her grave for hours, breathing, waiting. and whispering her name. When the reporter asked who it was, Esther just turned her head toward the window and said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Esther lived another 47 years. She got married, had children, but she never went near a cemetery again. And she never spoke of the voice on the grave. Was it a medical anomaly? A rare case of catalepsy, a condition where the heart slows so much that even a doctor cannot detect it? That is the official explanation. But here is what they do not tell you. The night Esther woke up, the groundskeeper Luther was found dead in his shack. Heart attack, they said. But the coroner noted something odd. Luther's ears were bleeding, as if he had heard a sound so loud it burst his eardrums. And the knocking? It never stopped. For weeks after Esther was exhumed, people walking past that empty grave swore they still heard 3 slow thumps coming from the empty hole. Until one day, nothing, just silence. Esther is gone now, but her grave is still empty. The question is, whatever was knocking, was it trying to get out, or trying to keep something else in?